Well, hello there, everyone. Here to show you the percent rate display connectivity right here. As you see right here, is I would hand you right here is a picture right here of a boy in like a a little globe, but type design right here for like an ornament. And I'm sure that if most of us here have especially with the holidays coming up, that we may have seen from from examples like for any ornaments, if it's going to be gingerbread men, or if it's going to be the globe, or maybe the snowman or something like that, on for like an ornament. And thinking about and that contains a number of pieces, which I'm sure that they're like that some of them that they'll be lucky that they'll last for about maybe 2 years, that you buy them and then put them up on the Christmas trees, and then it's like you do another source of decorating. But you have right here is I went ahead and drew right here is an example right here of a boy, and let's just say that the boy would be at about maybe 10, 11, 12 years old, something like that. So it's like you have right here is a look right here what the boy would have, and right here would be an example right here of a train. And for back whenever I was about 10, 11, 12 years old, and like trains. So it's like that the kind that you would either go around the Christmas tree, and then the kind that you'll be able to move, and then make that like the choo choo type sound. But on the other hand, that I thought that even seen them up there at the stores, to where the train sets that you can buy between maybe the tractors and the construction, it's like type toy vehicles, that type of stuff, and you would see the train. But you have right here is that drew right here as a boy, and with the boy that it's like you discovered, to where that you go out and do shopping, and then you come up to like a gift store or somewhere that where you would see maybe a few percentage off, to where that you go out and buy something, and then it says about maybe 25% off, or maybe 50% off, something like that. And if we were to do the math, and I hear a lot of times, even on the radio, and a lot of times it's like, that for math made easy, but it's like, that if it's going to be anything related to for any type of problem solving, or if it's anything such as that if it's going to be like for like any assistance with understanding about math, that maybe one reasons to why that a lot of people that don't like math is because it gets too complicated, that knowing about that like the typical science, to where that something that just it don't seem to get any easier than what it was before, and it keeps getting harder. So a lot of times, I'm like one of them that could be, it's like to not allow somebody to do something creative, just to kind of make it easier for them to understand about the importance about if it's going to be science or math or health, biology, or any other subjects like that. But basically that you have right here is like talk about, say, percentage rate, is that I went through right here is an example right here of a ruler, and with this ruler that contains the measurements between 1 and 5 or so, it's like the way I went through this right here will be like I guess there's 4 different measurements, and I'm familiar. There's 8 inches, and then there's kilometer, I think it says millimeters, I think it is, kilometers or something like that. So the type of measurements that more likely that we would maybe use in like a form of calculus, or if it's a geometry or any study like that. But let's just say on average that working with with a calculator right here is that we would know that if we were to be maybe even at the gas station, or at the gift shop, is like if we see something that's marked to where it's the sale price is for $39.95, and then we see 20% off on the sales racks, and it's like if it's going to be clearance or anything that's on buy one get one free, or a half off discount or something like that. And thinking that if we would actually do the math about how much would that be from this $39.95, and if we were to do the math right here, is that I'm sure that there may be at least maybe 3 ways or so of how to work that. And I'm sure that if I say, that like you do the math right here, and something I don't know if everybody, even the the young boy, I'm like that if you would want to mess with something like this, to where that on the right here is that they say please provide your answers for how you solve the answer to this question right here. But on your hand, it's like that as you do the math, and let's just say that with these math problems here is that let's just say on the at the regular price, let's say the regular price was about $49.95. $49.95, but then it was dashed down to they say like that according to they say the regular price it would be about maybe at the 30%, it was 30% a little bit more expensive from the actual price, if it's going to be from the store, or if it's ordering it online or something like that. So, and I know that anybody will likely say between points and percentage that they're thinking about that if you go to a sale, and a lot of times that they say, or if it's going to be anything related to a paycheck or anything like that, or if it's anything such as that counting for that anything related to maybe gift cards or something like that, that they would say on there, like if it's going to be bank statements or anything like that, they will more likely say that to say 10% or add additional 5% on to your order or something like that, this for free, this is included, just pay shipping and handling separate, that type of stuff. So if we would actually work the math right here, just thinking about that, really, will we think that maybe 2% is a little bit easier compared to this 25% right here? If we would actually do the math, and one thing I learned in basic class, I guess you say if we want to call it maybe a trick too, to where that I really don't know. This may be another type of problem solver, but I'm going to say between 4.85%. And if we were to actually, which I know that I guess if we would actually do the math tester here, to where 4.85%. If this is more likely maybe like a fraction, or if this is like maybe a rounding, if this is like a rounding type problem, if most of us here can remember from what we learned in math class, that for rounding to the nearest tenths, rounding to the nearest fifths or something like that, if it's a rounding problem, or if it's any type of a decimal point type problem, but basically that if most of us know that, I'm like, buying candy or clothing maybe at the store, that a lot of times, if we can remember that, if something that says that, $2.85, but then it says on the price tag that marked down, 5% off, on it's like, buy one and, but buy, it's like, try to put that sense right there, but anyway, buy one and get one, 5% off or something like that, which I know that, maybe, I don't think, candy bars, which, I don't know, I might be surprised, especially for like a king-size candy bar, that, for how much they are. But let's just say that if we would go to the store and something's about $2.85, and then they say that if you want to buy another candy bar, we mark down 5% from there. So, just to solve that, and I'm like wondering that, which I'm thinking that more likely that it's measured by that I can remember that a lot of times that with these math problems that I can remember that my teacher a lot of time was like you would minus that you would multiply those numbers. So I'm thinking just to get the answer that I guess say is to multiply that is to divide that, divide that, minus that. I'm like, that you have these, the one thing that more likely that we could maybe think about is like, for the division, such as if they say that, you save about maybe 5% if you buy a candy bar, but then, if we had to add on 5% taxes or something like that, then more likely that the chances are like, yeah, that more likely that that'll be like an additional problem. But really, who has access to this information whenever they go out shopping? Because I know a lot of times anybody will say if they're going to be out shopping or something like that, they might not have access to all this information about, really about between $49.95 and then save 30%, whenever you come into the store between these hours or something like that, save 30%. So really that do most of us here that if we would be able to calculate all this stuff in our head and thinking about, I'm like, yeah, usually that something maybe tell the teacher too, such as you do the math in your head. I'm like, yeah, that it's like with the boy, it's like, yeah, you do the work in your head, and like, well, I guess it takes you maybe a few minutes just to kind of think about it, to where how much do you think that this is, if you buy this, and I know that if it's going to be maybe candy, or if it's going to be anything, maybe any, more like any kid will be, it's like, go into a store and I know if it's just maybe buy a soda, or if it's maybe buy a bag of chips, or maybe maybe a soft drink, or maybe milk or anything like that, that more likely that chances like they see on there to where they buy one get one 20 which I don't know. Anybody say, yeah, well, they don't really do it on the candy bars. Maybe it's the clothes. If the boy want to go into the store and buy a pair of shoes or something, that more likely that he may see something such as 30% off. That with the shoes, that the regular price would have been about $49.95, and then they said the sale was 30% off. So how would we be able to calculate that? And I'm thinking that more likely that's like which goes like a plus and minus, to where that that you take the very for the 30%, and they're like, well, really that do the actual calculations, and then actually had the sale price right here, and they the 30% off. And I'm thinking that it's like for most of the time, if we were doing our shopping, to where that if we were to actually look at the receipts, it's like nobody actually shows, to where save 30%, and more likely that the total amount, if we would actually do the math right, is that which I'm guessing, I'm like, yeah, that really to take 30%, I'm like, yeah, if it's about doing that mathematic work, say on the calculator, if it's going to be about 2.89%, something like that. Do the math multiplication on the calculator. And the way I think about though is that that for any prices, if it's going to be maybe 30% off, but then they may add on taxes onto that too. But just thinking about exactly about what how much more likely 30% would be from the $49.95, and I'm thinking it would probably be about $37. $37.72, about $37.72. So it's like for $37.72, we actually do the math right there, and like thinking about, I'm like, yeah, for between which number is bigger, which number is smaller, and like, well, and then then whenever they add taxes onto it, and then a lot of times it's like it's like on the receipts that you even say that yep, well, you saved you say 25.78 today. So it's like that they would say something like, it would say on the receipt that you save this much, even though that I'm like, yeah, that that much money just for the item, but then on the other hand, I'm like, marked off 30% off. So a lot of times, how do we come in? And I'm thinking some that may say that yeah, that it looks like more like a long division type problem, to where how do you get like for the remainders. But I tell you one thing, that if we would actually do the math, I'm sure that it's not that I'm sure it's it takes all about getting used to it, over the fact about yeah, that for whenever we do our shopping and actually work the math, and just thinking that yeah, that whatever that says maybe on the systems as well, but really, do we expect each other to be absolutely perfect to where it's like do the calculations? But you see right here for $39.95, minus the 20%, and I'm thinking that the total cost for that would more likely be something such as about $29.91. So if we were to actually work the math right here, and let's just say for 20%, and which I'm thinking, I'm like, yeah, anybody say that yeah, but that's 20%. I'm like, that's 20%, and then more likely that we would probably think that maybe for 25% that would be about how much be or something like that. But for 20%, if all about getting that doing the calculations right here and thinking that exactly about that for like knowing exactly about how much it is, because it's like we work the math, but I'm thinking that something's going to be about $39.95 for sales price, and we actually work the math, and if it's like any coupons or anything like that in savings, that thinking that hey, that like, well, it's like for if something's going to be at maybe 20 or 30% off or something, and a lot of times it's like, well, okay, well, how much is it? Like, well, after that, after I say that much, on this item, how much would it be? And like knowing about how it all adds up to. So, like tell you about with the boy and like being around the presents. I'm sure that anybody say I had that to where any presents underneath the Christmas tree. Like the kid's gonna probably want to walk up to the Christmas tree and maybe see feel the presents. It's like you see maybe how much it weighs. But there may be some parents that may say, well, that's one of the reasons why they hide the presents. They hide the presents and then they don't put them out underneath the Christmas tree until about Christmas Eve, sometime around there. But right there's the boy right there, and just thinking about that, doing the math right here is that knowing about for equal to, if it's going to be maybe any type of bank account or anything like that, is like understanding about the important reasons about with math, that it's like calculating for how much something is, for if they say that it's 20% off, or between between 100% and then 25% off, is like you actually do the math. You say some want to call it maybe a math arithmetic or something like that. But you see right here, as I include right here, is the ornament. But now I don't really know exactly. Like if everybody would say that. Like while you're shopping, that you provide you bring the coupons with you, and then they even have it to where you can download coupons on the cell phones. It is, and then they're thinking that exactly that with any coupons and savings, that knowing about that I don't know exactly about how much that's equal to, but it's like, well, the register, the computer system, it automatically does the math for us. So in a lot of ways, the way I think about though is that knowing about whenever we see something maybe on the sales racks or something like that, or maybe on the shelves, and at the time you're like wondering that and by the time you get out to check out, it's a totally different story. You're like, well, I thought those were 20% off, or I thought those were 40% off. So but they would probably suggest, I'm like, that make sure to let them know too about if it was on sale. But a lot of ways, the way I think about it though is that just like say with wrapping paper, that for something I'm sure that we've had our experiences when we were a kid, that knowing about that you don't know what that means whenever somebody says that with your allowance, that you could be paid about 15% more compared to how much you were making about from last year, like for your allowance. Your allowance, you were paid just a little bit more. Like, well, whatever 15% means, but I don't know. Maybe not all kids would maybe get that confused. It's like between between $5 or so, or maybe $10 a week, but just thinking about 15%. It's like, for 15%, is 15% maybe the same as $5 and such cents? But I'm like, well, usually that for any type of percent that we may see about maybe 30 cents more to maybe $1.30 or so, $1.15 or so, a little bit more, for usually about what, for how we work the math to what we usually see if it's going to be an allowance or if it's going to be anything related to, buying any type of ornaments or anything like that. And thinking about, the way I went and drew this right here is that they have right here, of course, is the Christmas tree, but you have right here is a globe, which I'm sure anybody say that, nowadays if anybody's heard, I'm like, if they've seen a number of ornaments, like the TV set ornaments, or if it's maybe the airplane ornaments, or maybe the refrigerator, style ornaments or something like that. But in a lot of ways, it's like, if it says on there, on the sales racks or something, where like, it's that you save an extra 10% on the ornaments whenever you come in between these hours, or whenever you use a bonus card or something like that, or if it's going to be a membership card or something like that. So in a lot of ways, the way I think about though is knowing about that for anything that's related to percentage, that any kid will may think that okay, whatever. I had no idea what that means, but then on the other hand, that like, well, okay, well, is that supposed to be good news, or is that supposed to be bad news, or is that supposed to be the okay? But on the other hand, the way I think about it, though, is that with the understanding about the whole percentage rate, about say when I talk about say with the math skills, let's talk say for percentage, for how much we save, and then understanding about the with math. But other than that, say for the percentage rate collectivity. The talk about right here is like per percentage rate. Now I can say, for what I remember whenever I was about this boy's age, I can remember right here is that knowing about the book fairs that which I may mention about on a video I posted about that about the book fairs, and if most us kids here can maybe remember those, if they had something like that going on at their school. But it's basically that it's like a it's like a little a bookstore where that they it would be at the school to where that they would have like say an open store to where any kid would be able to go in there, walk into usually it was like in a library, but like for the book fair to where that you go in there and pick out a book from one of your favorite stories that you can remember maybe reading about in the library. And then a lot of times that any kid that wanted to bring about maybe maybe $10, $11, maybe $12 with them would be able to buy a book. And I can remember that I would buy a few books actually that maybe not every book I checked out at the library, that I just checked them out because I had to. I'm like, there were some stories that I did like, that were in the library, and I could probably think of maybe a few stories, but then on your hand that I'm like, I'm sure if most of us here kind of get the idea, the point about books. It's like for any books that more likely maybe a kid would like to read, and so far for improved education. But I'll just draw right here like one of those I think was about one of those books I think was about the dinosaurs. So I'll just go ahead and draw here is like an example right here of a dinosaur, and if if any kids here want it, I'm like that they probably had read other books too, such as if it's going to be maybe like certain Nickelodeon character, or if it's going to be if it's Bellington Bears or something like that. But you would be able to pick out a book at the book fair, and sometimes at these books I would probably say, if I can remember right, I think it was about $11.50, something like that. I'll go ahead and use $11.50 as for the price right here. So about $11.50. how much it would cost, to be able to buy a book, from the library, from the book fair. And this is about the same book that we may have checked out at the library, and then they may say if you checked it out a number of times to where you would like to have a copy of the book, about maybe 12, 13 pages long of the book, and it's basically like a story to where it talks about, it's like, the dinosaurs, and then I think that part of the story, which I can tell anybody here, that there's been a few of them, which I don't have too much of them anymore, but I can remember that I would buy a book, and I don't, recall all the names of the books, but then just remembering that they would have like a little bookstore at the library there at the school, and thinking that you'll go in there and buy a book, and then you would be able to read it a number of times, and you're like, yeah. And then there's been a couple of times too to where I have seen books that I had not read before, and they look pretty interesting. And one of those was about paper airplanes too, and the other one could have been about arts and crafts or something like that. But so sometimes I would ask my parents sometimes, even for with some extra cash, if I want to get something, and just like for in the cafeteria, if I want to get something, but let's just say in the bookstore that the price tag was marked at about $11.50, but then it's like, let's just say if I go in there and it says 10% off, 10% off any of if it's going to be maybe on the clearance racks or something like that, 10% off, anything on the clearance racks or in the special kids editions or something like that. It's like one of the best selling edition of this type of author or maker or something like that. So if most of us can remember that going to the bookstore, and a lot of times it's $11.50 and then say 10%. So a lot of times I'm thinking it'll probably be something like about $8.75, something like that, about $8.75. It'll be marked down to about maybe that much. So about 10%, I would say, would be at about around $8.75. But then well, if you think that you're not going to get away from taxes, but there are some, if I can remember right, that up there at the book fair, I do not remember having to pay a separate tax, to where I don't think that any of the kids that there who went to those book fairs, that they had to pay a separate sales tax from the cost of the book, and as well as you just go in there, and then it's like, so really actually buying something, if anybody, if it's in America or maybe parts of South North America or South America or parts of Canada or somewhere, if like you experience buying something for the first time, maybe whenever you're very young, and like talking about, I'm like, yeah, most of us here probably have our experience to where at the time you're like, well, really, what's there all really to talk about really how much money we save and how much money we spend, and maybe how much money we're planning on spending and how much we're planning on saving. But on the other hand, it seems like it's a never-ending job, to where that by the time you get some ideas and thinking about, and then the next thing you know, that they're going to have it to where that they offer a collection, to where if it's going to be maybe a musical group, that a book that came with a musical group or something like that all in one package or something like that. But then now that they have it to where, it's 20% off, it's about a little bit more expensive than how much you paid from the last time. So let's just say that if you go into the bookstore, by the next year, the same book maybe that you see, but then they have a little bigger package, and then let's just say it's marked to $23.49, $23.49, but then it's marked at 20% off. So a lot of times, if anybody were to wonder that, what do you call that? To where that something that you already have, but then it comes with something else, and the package just got bigger. But then on the other hand, that knowing about that, the package just got bigger, but then on the other hand, that, you've already got that book, but then now, it came like with a little puzzle, or it came with maybe a little CD, or maybe a little gift card or something like that. Which anybody say they yeah, nowadays with anywhere like in the stores to where that they have it to where that maybe the comic books or something like that you be able to buy something and then they maybe have it marked off as for 20% off, and you're like, oh well, hey, that's a good buy right there. Hey, what's it? So that some here that may think that it's really about how do we think that it's a good time to really buy stuff? It's if it's going to be books or if it's stocked up on school supplies, anything like that. And like yeah, exactly. That last time you went to the book fair that a lot of things were only about maybe 10% off, $11.50, the price tag, and then go in there maybe the next year and they have maybe even a little better buy to where it's something that's a little bit more expensive, but it's marked for 20% off. So if anybody were to think about even for the holidays or anything like that, and thinking about really about. It kind of feels like a tie around to where that you're trying to make a decision, and sometimes if you had to spend about maybe 3 minutes to maybe 13 minutes longer in the store just trying to make your decision about which one do you want, like hey do you want this one or do you want that one, and you're like, well, can I have them both? Like really that how often that and I'm, anybody like think about, I'm like, if getting something off the menus or anything like that, how often do we hear the answer to we're both? You have these two choices right here. Can I have them both? But on the other hand, the way I think about it, though, is like any books that more likely that we may find, especially at the bookstores, or if it's going to be anything maybe in the gift shops or something like that, to where if something's going to be marked off, something's going to be marked, for saving. And let's just say that if coming to a point to where that that's what it says, but then whenever they add taxes on to that, but on the other hand, that knowing that with the 20% off, that if it's going to be anything such as with or without maybe the coupon, that you could pay about maybe 10% more than what you paid last time or something like that. So this a lot of this math stuff seems very confusing, because I'm sure anybody say that yeah, well, I didn't pay attention to knowing about that for like it says it's $49.95, right? Well, how much would that be if it was only 10%, if it was for 10% off plus with one or two coupons? I brought the coupons with me, so if anybody were like thinking about really that be like little boy, is that really do we really have that amount of time to where that we get a pencil and paper and like do the math like really, and say don't expect no kid to do that. Like yeah, would the kid want to go ahead and maybe build a little paper airplane out of the wrapping paper that they after they got into their presents, and like do you think that they would want to build themselves make themselves a little gingerbread man, other than thinking about writing down the math problems to where they how much would this be? How much would this be? I'm like, go out and go to the store and want to get a candy bar, and then the next thing you know, it's like well, how much is 6 and 6, or how much is 5 and 5? But just knowing about if we do the math, it's like really about do we get paid by our experience as well. But on your hand too, so for the percentage rates, I say culling activity.